back country with a couple kids. And, you know, we were hiking. It's been just a long day. And, you know what we did? We sat down and we camped out at our lean-to. And when we got there, the little kids saw some squirrel running around. They're like, oh, squirrel, look at the squirrel. So the squirrel was running around. I figured the kids had a long day, so why not try and relax them, like get some entertainment in there. So I sit down, I start cooking, and the squirrel starts coming up and he starts sniffing around and he gets up on the table, and then I'm like, you know, this guy totally is a little hungry. He is a little tamed, but totally hungry. So take a little piece of ramen, feed him to him. Squirrel eats it right out of my hand, right out of the hand. You can touch my hand, right out of it. Yeah. So the squirrel really enjoyed that ramen, and it made me kind of curious. What are squirrels doing eating ramen? You know, squirrels don't eat ramen. That's not a real thing in nature. So anyway, kids got really excited about this squirrel, so we called it Ziggy. So he started running around, he started zigzagging around, he gets up in the lean-to, and he cuddles with us, and he gets some more food, and we go to sleep, and then the next day we wake up, and my counselor, he grabs the peanut butter knife, and he notices there's hairs on it. So we go, well, these tiny little hairs aren't my hairs. So, turns out, ended up being the squirrel broke into our bag in the middle of the night, and he ate some of our sun butter off the knife. And then I got real curious. What are squirrels doing all this stuff? How can they get so tamed? How can they be the way they are? So maybe look into it. So let's dive into the history of squirrels, shall we? So the eastern gray squirrel is what we're going to be talking about, and They originated in the Midwest to the East Coast of America, kind of migrated through introduction, from human introduction. And around the 1800s, they were introduced into the United Kingdom. And this became a problem because the squirrel that used to live in the UK was the red squirrel. And the red squirrel is much smaller. This is actually what a red squirrel looks like. So, oh wait, what do you hear? You hear that? Oh man, it's Ziggy! It's Ziggy, the eastern gray squirrel. So as you can tell, this squirrel is much bigger than that squirrel. So what do we think some problems can be if a bigger animal is inhabiting the same territory as a smaller one?
It's gonna eat all the food.
Oh yeah, so as Mr. Lemon said, the eastern gray squirrel started to outcompete the red squirrel, and the red squirrel population started to decline. And so everyone was just kind of bugging out. They're like, why are the red squirrels declining? And they started to look around and they realized it's because of this guy, Mr. Ziggy. And so something interesting about Ziggy is he can store 4 to 5 times more fat than our red squirrel here. So with that being said, they are much bigger animals, and they also have been known to carry something called squirrel pox, which the red squirrels don't have. And with that being said, squirrel pox gets the red squirrels and other animals sick, and that also contributes to the decline. Throughout history in America, eastern gray squirrels were hunted and killed for food. So if you look right here, this is a nutrition fact of an eastern gray squirrel. This is the nutrition and the nutrients, the fats, the cholesterols, the vitamins that you will get out of eating a squirrel. On top of which, if you guys are all into cooking like myself, we got a nice recipe for squirrel stew up here. So if you're interested, we just gotta get some squirrels and we can start cooking. We can have a powwow. So with that being said, let's talk about food, shall we? So, what food do we think these guys eat?
Nuts.
Nuts? Good. Anyone else?
Acorns.
Acorns, also a nut. How about fruits and
Like
berries.
Like
Garbage.
berries?
Garbage, yeah, they eat some berries. In an urban environment, they've been known to eat some garbage. Even in a backcountry setting, they've been known to eat ramen. So these squirrels also are one of the only squirrels to eat bird egg, as well as another fun fact: they can hide up to 50 nuts per hour, but they only end up finding around 80% of their nuts, which is interesting. You know, you think a squirrel who hides all their nuts in little spots can find all their food, but they can't. So, with that being said, another item they eat is a mushroom. Now, this mushroom is interesting. It gets other animals sick, but this squirrel, the eastern gray squirrel, is attracted to this mushroom. So studies show the mushroom that these squirrels eat, is actually a psychedelic. So these squirrels, I guess, like to go on trips. So let's talk about where they may nest and hibernate and whatnot. Which brings me to, by a show of hands, who thinks squirrels hibernate? Who thinks they don't? Well, those of you that just raised your hands, ding, ding, ding. Squirrels do not hibernate, actually. They actually just change their dens. So, these squirrels end up moving from the tops of the trees to the tree hollows. And we'll learn more about that. So, the name of the nest that squirrels live in is called a dray. And what do you think they might make their nest out of? You know, if they were to make a nest in the trees, what do you think they're using?
Organic matter. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say twigs.
Twigs?
Leaves.
Leaves, yeah, maybe some feathers and furs also. And this is meant to keep their young protected and safe, as well as warm. In an urban environment, they've also been known to live in their attics and in people's attics and chew through wires. Has anyone ever had a squirrel problem? No? I know I have. My family had a squirrel problem. Chewed right into our attic and just started chewing at some of our wires. We had to put some peanut butter on a piece of bread to trap them. So these guys do find their ways into different areas besides nests and trees. But let's stick to the outdoors. So they live in coniferous forests, which usually needs a lot of leaves. And some trees that they might actually live in are white oak trees, red maple trees, and American elm trees. Now let's look at these trees individually, right? So let's find out why these squirrels might live in such spots. You know, I mean, yeah, they do live in trees, but you know, we got to find the reason so we can really dig into the noggin of this guy. We want to learn about Ziggy. So, in the white oak tree, what do we notice? Anybody?
Acorns.
Yeah. So if you don't remember earlier, squirrels eat acorns. So maybe a reason for them to live in the white maple tree is because their food's right there. Smart fellas. What about a red maple? What do we notice?
Leaves. Red.
Yeah, a lot of leaves. Good job, Jack. So the large amount of leaves helps provide cover from other from predators, as well as the American elm. You notice how it's very bushy, a lot of leaf coverage. The squirrels are very protected in the environment. So this could be a reason why they find these homes. So now let's get into Ziggy's life. So Ziggy, outdoors, lives up to about 12 years. As a pet,
Bless you.
As a pet, they live up to 20. They've been known to live up to 20 years in captivity. And so now these guys have about 2 litters per year, which means that they have they give birth twice a year to about 2 or 3 baby squirrels. And these baby squirrels are born blind, and they nurse for about 4 to 5 weeks. For 8 weeks, and their eyes open after 5. Backtracking a little, they are born after 45 days of pregnancy. And the months that they're usually born in are mid-March to April and mid-July to mid-August. This is due to the temperature. Usually they're born at the end of winter in the tree hollows. So the young squirrels tend to survive, and then when they start maturing, they go outside and they can start learning how to hunt and find their nuts and whatnot. So they also, fun fact, start mating. They're allowed to start mating at 5 months. That's when they're mature enough to mate. But they typically don't until a year, which is interesting because this what helps keep the population so high, because they can breed so young. So let's talk about some adaptations of Ziggy. So we're gonna look into the eye of Mr. Squirrel. So let's look at his bushy tail, right? Why do you think they might have a bushy tail?
To make themselves look bigger to predators.
That. Also, their bushy tail has been known to help with balance. So when they're hopping from tree to tree, they can, it just keeps them balanced. It allows them to find their food, and a mating technique that these guys do is a dance. So they show their acrobatics to other female squirrels. And if they like, then they mate. If not, but the tail helps them doing acrobatics. They can also, so if we look at these feet, what do we notice?
It's got claws.
Yeah, very sharp claws, right? Want to feel those claws for me? Tell me how sharp they
I
are.
want to feel them.
Soft too.
You can grab some nuts real with those.
Yeah. So the sharp claws allow them to also stay onto the trees. More specifically, their hind legs can rotate. So when you see squirrels running down trees and stuff, that's because their feet can actually turn a bit and they rotate, and this allows them to run away from, begins with a P.
Predator.
Yeah, birds are predators, but yeah, very good. So they have in their noggins, we all have olfactory senses, which is in our brain. It helps us with memory. Now these guys have a heightened olfactory sense, which allows them to remember where their food is. Unfortunately, not heightened enough to find all 5 out of all 100%, but no, nothing's perfect in this world. So they also have different sounds that they use for mating, which goes along with their acrobatic dance. And their tails also act as rudders. So squirrels can swim up to a mile or 2 depending on the currents, which I think is really interesting. You know, a land animal can paddle around in the water and take a bath, maybe. Who knows? So they're also adapted to human interaction. So throughout the years, as everyone knows, we've colonized the Americas, and we've also built our homes in the habitats of these eastern gray squirrels. So, with that being said, they'd have to adapt to our environment to survive, correct? So, they've started to adapt to garbage and attics as their homes, as a way of survival. Now I'm going to show you guys a cool little video that you'll very much enjoy. So enjoy the show.
Volume.
It's not working.
Is that a squirrel? Right?
This is a Twiggy, the eastern gray squirrel, and as you see, he swam and he can jet ski. So this is another adaptation of the squirrel. They've learned to ride. Shred the gnar.
Shred, bruh.
Look at them. Beautiful, beautiful.
I know if we compete with GoPro commercials.
That's slow-mo?
Oh yeah. So that's a picture of a baby squirrel. And now let's talk about hierarchy. So just like ourselves, we have hierarchy, you know, who leads, who doesn't. So with hierarchy, we have the older squirrels dominating the younger squirrels. We have the male squirrels dominating the female squirrels. And we also have some body language to show aggression. So when a dominant male squirrel has his tail sharply bent, so like this little portion bent like it is, and the other squirrel that he sees also has a tight portion of his tail bent, then aggression is increased. So has anyone ever seen two squirrels in the street kind of going at it? Yeah, raise the hands. Yeah, we all have. That could have been occurred due to the bend in the tail. Now when there's a tight bend in the dominant squirrel's tail and there's a large section, so most of the tail is bent but not sharply, then the signs of aggression are a lot lower. It's a little more passive. So let's talk about predation. Yeah? So what do we think the predator of an eastern gray squirrel might be?
There you go.
Dog.
Dog, yeah. What about animals we find more in nature?
A coyote.
Coyote.
Yeah, coyote, fox. Owls have been known to prey on these squirrels. Yeah, domestic dogs. I heard dogs somewhere.
Humans.
Humans, yeah. Humans hunt and eat squirrels for fur and food. And cats too. Cats have been known occasionally. So for your future information, these squirrels do carry disease. So don't try and approach them or feed them. And they're also supposed to live off of acorns and twigs and buds. So don't try and feed them something like ramen. Want to try and keep them as nature and wild and free as we can. So thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed. Namaste.